All right, so we're going to look at some story problems. I do this in high school for everybody at some point, and it was actually a special request this year that we do these. So it says find the value of x in each of the following sets of observations. So they're telling us, we don't know what this is, but we've got 45, 62, 72, x, which is just we don't know, 59, 62, and then they're also giving us that the mean is 61. So what we're going to do is work backwards and use a little bit of algebra. So if we think about how we do the mean, first you add all of the numbers up. So I would have 45 plus 62 plus 72 plus x plus 59 plus 62. And then if I'm finding the mean, I would divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because there's 6 numbers. And then we know that the mean is 61. We know what the answer is already. We're trying to work back to what this is. So what I would do first is I would add up all the numbers that we do know. So I would take my calculator and add up 45, 62, 72, 59, 62. Add all of those up. And so now I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to have 300 plus x divided by 6 is 61. And now this is taking us back to equations that we had in middle school. So the first thing we got to do here is get rid of this fraction. So all of this is getting divided by 6. So what's the opposite of divide? Multiply. And I'm going to write this as a separate step, but you could just put times on both sides of this. So I'm rewriting this just to make it clear in my notes for people that are gone. So I would multiply both sides by 6 to cancel that out. So now I have 300 plus x equals 366. I think that's right, but I'm going to double check. It is. And then we have an equation that we need to solve that has 300 plus x, and we need to get rid of the 300. So we will subtract 300 from both sides, and we get 66. That makes sense?
So much sense.
Okay. There are other ways to do this, but I like using algebra because you just set up what you know and then you solve. And then you don't have to think about it after you get it set up. Okay, so this one's a little bit different. Given that the mean for the numbers 3, x, 8, and 5 is 10, find the value of 10. So this, they're telling us, they have that is 10. So the mean is 10, got separated in the sentence, and then they put this other thing in the middle. And so that's the mean. And when they give us x and x twice, these have got to be the same number. Otherwise, they would have used x and y or some other letter. So when we set this one up, we're going to have 3 plus x plus 8 plus 5 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equals 10. And then to clean this up, we will combine like terms. So the x and the x can go together, which would give me 2x. So x and x is 2x. We'll also add 3 and 8 and 5 together, which is 16. And it's divided by 5 equals 10. Okay, off the screen just a little bit. All right. So now, to get the 5 out of the denominator, what would we do? It's already divide. Multiply. So I'm going to take this fraction and multiply it by 5, so it cancels out the denominator. And then I also have to take the 10 times 5 to keep this all equal. And then that gives us, I'm going to draw a little line here to separate this. That gives us 2x plus 16 equals 50, because 10 times 5 is 50. And then we have a two-step equation to solve. So let me get this stuff off the screen. So we just have this one. All right, so how do we solve for x in this two-step equation? Do I divide by 2 first, or do I subtract 16 first? subtract the 16. Good job. So then we have 2x equals 34. Divide by 2. And then we get 17. And you can always check. You could go back and go, okay, 3 and 17 and 17 and 8 and 5, and just see if it works. Okay? Now, here's where it's going to get real life, and this is what people try to do. And now, if you have weighted grades, this is a little different.
Yeah, weighted grades.
Most of your classes, you do have weighted grades. Like in my class, tests are 50%. Everything else is 50%, or it's like tests and your notebooks are 50%. In Scroggins class, you have a lot of different weights. But we're going to do a simple example, and then if you guys are curious about weighted grades, we can do some of those too. So far, you have the following grades in English class: 78, 82, 98, and 94. You must have an average or mean of 90 to get an A. There is one more assignment left. What must you get on the assignment to get an A? So we want the mean to be 90. Okay, and we're adding one more assignment. That one more assignment will be x. So we're going to add x to this. So we'll have 78 plus 82 plus 98 plus 94 plus that one more assignment. And so if we add that one, there will be a total of 5 assignments, and we want it to be 90, at least 90. You could actually put an inequality in there, but we're just going to call it 90. All right, so let's clean this up. If I add 78, 82, 98, and 94 together, I get 352 plus x over 5 equals 90. What comes next? How do I get
5?
Okay, so multiply by 5. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to take 5 times this fraction to get rid of the 5, and then I have to take 90 times 5. I have to do it on both sides of the equation. So 352 plus x equals 450. Then we subtract 352. I think we get 98. Let's see. 450 minus 352. I was right. So you have to get a 98 on your last assignment if you want an A, or more. Make sense? Okay, now here's one that's weighted that I forgot was on here. In math class, these are your test scores right here. These are your homework scores right here. So probably a couple of these are, on my class would be like your notebook and your binder. But anyway, the class is weighted such that 50% of the grade is tests and 50% is homework. So if we think about it, half of it is tests and your notebook is in there. And then this side is homework. There's one more test. What must you get on it to get a B in the class, or at least 80? So what we're looking at then is this is 50% and this is 50%. So when we add them all up, so you have one more test. So that's going to be an X that we'll put with the test scores. So you're going to have 70 plus 85 plus 92 plus 89 plus X divided by 5. And this is 50% of your grade, so I'm going to put all of that in parentheses and make it times 0.50, because that's the same thing as 50%, 0.50.
Divide that by 2.
You could, if that made more sense to you, you could. But if they were weighted with other percentages, you wouldn't be able to do that. So like if you're going into science class here, he has something that's 5% and something that's 15%, and they're all different. So, and then you're going to add to that your homework scores, which are 0, 100, 90, 84, 95, and 78. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. that you're going to divide by 6, and then you're going to take that times 0.50 for the other 50%. And you want all of this to equal at least an 80 overall. So this looks kind of weird, but it'll work out. So let's do this part first, because this is just straight math. So we add these all up. You don't have to put the 0 in, but you do have to count it as part of the 6, so that's why I wrote it. So 100 plus 90 plus 84 plus 95 plus 78 is 447. And then we're going to divide by 6, so make sure you get the total before you divide, which is 74.5. And then we're going to multiply by 0.50 or 0.5. So this number right here, all of this is just 37.25. We still have equals 80 over here. So we just did all of that. That's all gone. Okay? So over here, let's do the numbers that we know. So 70 plus 85 plus 92 plus 89 is 336 plus x divided by 5 times, oh, well, I shouldn't use the x, all times 0.5.
Didn't you just leave the times out, put 0.5?
You could, since it's next to parentheses. I'm just trying to make it super clear. Now I'm going to do a trick. I'm going to put 0.5 and divide by 5, since 5 is actually being divided, and put those numbers together. So 0.5 divided by 5 is 0.1, and that's going to get rid of this and just make it 336 plus x with just a 0.1 on the outside. What do we do when we have parentheses with an x in there and we've got this number on the outside? Distribute it. Isn't this fun? So that'll make this 33.6 plus 0.1x, and then we'll put the rest of it in here, plus 37.25 equals 80. We're getting closer. Sorry, I was off the screen. So let me get that up here. And then I can put this and this together. 33.6 plus 37.25 is 70.85, so 70.85 plus 0.1x equals 80. Now it's finally down to just a two-step equation. This is nuts. We're not going to do this on a daily basis, but I thought it was worth showing you since this is how your math grades are actually calculated. So if I take that 70.85 plus 0.1x equals 8, I would, oh wait, does that make sense? We're going to end up with a 80. I wrote 8. That's why I was confused. Sorry, just had a momentary lapse of reason. So we'll subtract that. So 80 minus 70.85 is 9.15. Divide by 0.1, it's 91. And you get x equals 91.5. So basically you're probably going to want to get a 92 or better. You'd better get a high A. But this is the general way you set this up. And then if you wanted to figure out your grade in a class that has more than 2 categories, it gets a little bit more exciting.